And I'm here with my first guest. Like I was telling you earlier, I was having a discussion with one of them, and he brought me upon a lot of information. There was a lot to take in, but we're going to try to decipher through some of it here today. Let us welcome Kenyan Ashira bin Yisrael and Chimobim. Chimobim, the president of the Hebrews United. Welcome to the Prime, gentlemen. And now, you're here to talk about the documentary, The Real Zion. Right. Explain what the documentary is about.
All right, we have the Real Jerusalem is a documentary about the real Mount Zion. You have two Jerusalem that's spoken about in scriptures. The modern Jerusalem is what we know as the Jerusalem of the Amorites, which Hadrian and Constantine actually built up to hide from the true, built up to manipulate the earth with. It's a place that was built off Christianity. But you have the Jerusalem of the Jebusites, where the place where Mashiach, which is the Gentiles called Christ, walked in. This is the place which is in the south of modern Jerusalem. So we, myself, Ashira Mario, are people who actually, he's an archaeologist, who actually family discovered the real Jerusalem. His family back in the 20s, and then excavation started in the 80s, and then again in 2007, and it was almost completed in 2009. So from that point in 2009, the call was done for people to return back to the real Jerusalem. Now the modern Jerusalem was a place that was built off people to make money from, the Romans. So when scholars usually go there, they say, well, I don't believe that David ever existed. I don't believe Christ ever existed, because when he opened the Bible, nothing matches. Okay. And it's true, it doesn't fit. Because what you're looking at is a place that was made up, everything was made up in that place. Yep. So this is what the true documentary is about, exposing the real Jerusalem and the real Mount Zion that the real children of Israel will one day return to. So what God did was he took this place, was modern Jerusalem, and he ushered in the Ashkenazi Jewish people. Now remember, I was telling you earlier, the word Jewish, the word ish is suffix, meaning to be like. Right. So these people are Edomites or Ashkenazi or Sephardic Jewish people that our people taught in history. And God sent them there instead of the real Jerusalem, which has been desolate according to prophecy. Yes, sir. Yeah.
A lot to take in, and that's like tip of the iceberg from what you were telling me earlier.
Well, you actually can look at the documentary. You can go to my page on YouTube. You can put in Kenyan Wilkerson, and you will come up with two documentaries. The last documentary I just completed here in Trinidad, just finished editing. It reflects on the call from Zion for our people to return to the real Mount Jerusalem, or the real Mount Zion in Jerusalem, the real people. So it's been 2,000 years for any of our people to been in that land. 2,000 years into the real Jerusalem.
No, where exactly is that land? It's south of Jerusalem.
It's south of modern Jerusalem. Today it's called Arad or Tel Arad.
Okay.
Yes, sir. So it's been hidden, and during 800 AD, the Arabs had covered it up with dirt. So from all up until the early 1900s, 20th century, that when it was actually beginning to be seen by, I can't remember the guy's name, but it was actually seen from a gentleman who is a descendant of Ashira Mario. So this is the beginning of locating the real Mount Zion in Jerusalem.
Okay, so today, that is a place that we can go and see.
Yes, absolutely. What I'm asking people who are interested in going to the pilgrimage, because see, it's like this. Everybody has a pilgrimage. The Muslims have a pilgrimage. The Jewish people have a pilgrimage to the modern Jerusalem, but our people who have awakened to the understanding that they're Israelites don't have one. Now they do. It's the real Jerusalem. It's the real Mount Zion. So this is the beginning of the process of the return of our people to a land that most people don't even know that they have. If you ask most Black Americans or most Caribbean blacks or Afro-Latinos, you ask them who they are. The first thing they say, well, I'm Trinidadian. I say, well, that's not a culture. That's not a heritage.
Right.
The word the word Trinidad comes from the word Trinity. So now I ask them, that's who you are? You're a Trinity? So I get them to thinking, get them to processing. Well, who are you? Well, I'm African. Then I ask them, well, what part of Africa are you from? Where are you from? And they get to thinking again. So I said, the answer is there. Everyone knows who you are. And one of the things they do is to keep us from going to the east, is because if you go to the Middle East or anywhere on that side of the world, they're going to tell you who you are. They're going to tell you that you are Yahudi. They're going to identify you not as Trinidadian, not as an Afro-Puerto Rican, not as an African American, but they're going to identify you as a Yahudi or Yahuda, which means the seed of Judah or the children of Judah.
Well, I'm going to let Chimo Wabim.
Yes.
Chimo Wabim chime in on that word
Yahuda.
Yahudi. Explain exactly what that word means with the origin.
Well, it's basically what he said. I mean, it's very simple. See, one of the things that he said that I always talk to people about is, where are you from? And some people will say that their ancestors are from somewhere down the islands, but actually, the history of Trinidad, the Amerindians and the Caribs, they came from Venezuela. They didn't come. They weren't born here. They came from somewhere else, and so a lot of the descendants of those people are still around, but they kind of mixed in because you have the East Indians that came, and then you had some that were indentured servants, and then you have those who came as a part of slavery, and then you had others that came from the other islands that came to make up Trinidad. That is why everybody looks the way they look and they sound, because Tobagonians are different. You can tell that's a completely different tribe. And you know that all of us are a part of a tribe. We had the 12 tribes. See, so the most important thing is to find out, again, as he was saying, who you are. Because there's a prophecy concerning each tribe and to what they're supposed to do. And most people, if you don't know who you are, you're not going to understand where you're going and what you're supposed to be about. You don't know your history. You don't know your family history. So what do you know about yourself?
Right.
Other than what somebody has told you, even in the history books. And one of the things that I always talk to Trinidadians about is that the first veterinarian was a Trinidadian. And not one Trinidadian that I have ever spoken to, and I've been in this country for about 17, 18 years off and on, none of them have ever known that. Not one.
Neither did I.
Yeah. See, so you have to understand who you are and where you came from to understand where you're supposed to be going.
Right.
And that is why a lot of people get confused and mixed up, and they go with this system of belief or that system of belief. But what we're talking about is a way of life. Is a way of life that we have.
Right.
You know,
it's not a religion.
Right, exactly. And we represent ourselves as Hebrews. Now, everybody who says that they're Hebrew is not, because a Hebrew is the one who has crossed over from death unto life. It's not about dressing a certain way or anything like that. Most people will connect us with the Muslim and say, hey, well, that's a Muslim, but they forget Abraham was Ishmael's father and Isaac's father. So they dressed as he dressed and as he taught them. A lot of people don't understand that. They say, oh, that's a Muslim, that's this. They always want to label something, but if you ask them who they are, they can't give you the correct label as to who they are.
And also, when you understand what a Hebrew, it's a nationality. A Hebrew Israelite is a nationality. Jacob had 12 sons. They was known as the children of Israel. This is who Islam derived their, and Muhammad got their religions from.
Right.
And also the Christians from the Hebrew Israelites. They developed their religion from off their culture and their heritage. You understand? So this is not a religion. This is a way of life. We are the 12 tribes of Israel. We are a people. We are a nation of people. So the Europeans, the British, which conquered and brought people here at one point, and the Americans, they took a nation of people.
That's right.
So when you think about right here in Trinidad, just like in America, the so-called Negro that's in Trinidad was brought here. Everybody came to Trinidad on their own free will besides the Negro.
Well, we have to take a break.
Okay.
We're going to come back. I'm speaking with Chimobim. Chimobim is
Yes,
Chimobim or
Chimobim.
Yes.
Chimobim. Very sorry. Chimobim and Kenyan bin Yisrael, members of the Hebrews United. Sorry. We're gonna take a little break and come right back and continue with this discussion. Stay tuned. You're watching Deep Prime. Welcome back, guys. You're watching Day Prime. If you're now joining us, I'm speaking with members of Hebrews United, Kenyan Ashira bin Yisrael, and Chimobim. You were telling me during the break, Chimobim, that you all are going to open a school.
Yeah, we are opening a school, and the name of the school is Hebrews Institute of Trinidad and Tobago, HIT for short. And as a matter of fact, we are having a meeting on Sunday coming at St. Joseph's Community Center at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. And we will be filling in people a little bit more about that, because some of the things that we're talking about, we will also, his documentary is going to be a part of the education, because we want people to understand and be of the same mind, because there are lots of different groups out there, but we need to have all things in common. So we're working, and we put together a curriculum so that we can teach them the basics so they will understand. And it is friendly to anybody, whatever religion and stuff. But for right now, it is in-house, because we're working with the Hebrew groups that have that we've been coming in contact with, because there's quite a few of us. There's literally thousands of us, but they are individualized, and not too many of them set up like how a church setting is or a mosque setting is. It's smaller groups that have come to the truth and have been searching. And sometimes we run into what you'll call a YouTube scholar, and they have a whole lot of mixture and stuff, and they don't stick to one thing. But we want to have everything in common, because there's lots of different things out there by different people who say they're this and say they're that, and it confuses things. So we just want people to have a common ground, so that's why we put the school together. And there's also a number, I can give the number now, that you would need to call if you're interested in this. And the number to call would be 710-4934. 710-4934. So if you're interested in coming, so we'll know that you're there, and we will have some paperwork to give them so that they will know a little bit more about it.
I wanted to ask you, you said that this is not a religion, it's a lifestyle.
That's correct.
What is that lifestyle?
The lifestyle, if to be a follower of Christ, you have to do the things that Christ did, right? Okay. One, we don't eat pork. The next thing is that, what about the holy days? The Passover, which is Pesach, the Feast of Tabernacle. There's 3 holy days that we're supposed to acknowledge.
Yeah.
You understand? So even if I was a Christian, I'm supposed to not acknowledge the holy days that Christ acknowledged. We're not supposed to. We don't celebrate or fellowship with have anything to do with any pagan days, Halloween, Christmas, because these are days or customs that were taught by the pagans. It's satanic. So we don't follow them. So how can I say I'm a follower of Christ, but I celebrate these days that Satan has established upon the earth? Remember, Scripture says that the earth has been given into the hands of the wicked. So the wicked is controlling the earth right now. We are, even in church, they always say, Satan is this is Satan's world right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, because Satan is in control, the Father, the Heavenly Father is allowing him to do this until a certain time. That's another saying we always said in the church was, the devil time is short. To prove that he right now is controlling the earth. So part of the custom is the feast. We honor the Shabbat. We honor the Sabbath. Although you have other brothers who say this is the Sabbath, this is the Sabbath. It doesn't take much. You just have to do a little bit of research. And the Sabbath that myself honor is sundown Friday to sundown Saturday. Others have other ones. But so these are some of the customs that we follow, that we have. And you'll see that in the document. Go ahead.
The 3 holy days.
Yeah.
When are those?
Well, they because of the lunar cycle, it switches. Like on we have counted the Pesach, and I think it's April the 4th sundown this year. And then again, it determines according to the new moons.
Right.
So the calendar that we go by the calendar that was established by God Himself, not this Roman calendar. Everybody thinks the New Year begins in January the 1st.
Yeah.
That's pagan.
It's Romanized.
So who rules, God or man, or the man laws? You understand? We choose to pick God laws and God way instead of man's way, because everything man is doing, if the earth been given to the hands of the wicked, that means that man these days, who are leaders, are following the wicked ones. So we don't want to deal with none of that. We protect. So when you start following the true God of Israel, the God of the Creator, people are going to look at you funny. They're going to think that you're kind of off. Really, they're off. But but Christ Himself said, that the world will love their own. And if you are the world, how can you be of Him if you're part of the world? So we don't want to be lukewarm. We most definitely want to be cold. We want to be, we want to be hot like the Most High, like the Mashiach, who is Christ said.
What is the feedback when you bring this message to people?
Well, often if the people have a Christian background, if they are, as people would say, staunch, then what happens often is they reject it because they feel like offended by some of the things that you may say, but that is not the intent or the purpose of it. It says, if you continue in my word, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. And when you're not continuing in the truth, you walk around in a circle as a fool. See that you walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. Now, when we talk to people and we share things with them, if they have been living that life, if they have been involved in the church world, oftentimes if they're not satisfied with it and they're looking for something more, then they are easier to talk to and they accept the message more. And also people who really do study the scriptures, because that's one thing about us, is that we study the scriptures and we look at them. We don't just take what somebody told us. We're not looking at television. We're not buying the tapes and all these things like that people are doing these things, saying things and it doesn't line up. They contradict themselves with what they say and how they live. And that's one of the problems. And even when he was talking about the feast that we are to keep, and the calendars, there's discrepancies, and this is the reason why we have the school. So some things will be in their syllabus only as a part of as a comparative study, because there are different beliefs out there because of the different so-called scholars that have said these certain things, and also a lot of atheists as well have put out there. So people get mixed up and they get confused with information. And it's not just about information. What we focus on also is the life, because you have to have a balance. You have to live the life, and you need that knowledge, because people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, and that is the problem. They're destroyed because people walk in ignorance and they continue to do something. The definition of insanity is doing the same things and expecting a different outcome. And that is what people often do. Their lives are not getting better. They're not being transformed. They're not being changed. And if you're going by and you're proclaiming something, one of the things that I always say is, don't advertise if you can't deliver. If you say that your God heals, if your God delivers, and there must be proof, there must be evidence of it. Not something that happened and you stay good for a year or 2 years. This must be throughout your lifetime, and not in front of people, but behind closed doors as well. Because some people can fake it so well, like kids they'll grow up in certain disciplines, as I like to call it, and they know how to do everything right according to that discipline because they've been indoctrinated with it, they heard it. But when you're put to the test, what happens?
Right.
And often that shows up who they are. Like I tell people, no matter where you go, there you are. You are a representative of what you say you believe and what you say you live. If you don't do that, you're advertising and you're not delivering. So, you want to say?
No. And so he pretty much just said it all. The culture is very important because you have to live it. The culture that we're dealing with today is more of a Gentile culture. It's more of our oppressors. Everything we learn from North America, South America has been done by Europeans. Everything, our education, the way we dress. You know what I mean? We have a lifestyle, but the funny thing about it, when you see Asians or Chinese, they have their particular way they dress.
That's right.
They dress their way. You see Indians, they have their way they dress. You see so-called Africans, they even have their way they dress. But the so-called Afro-Trinidadian African American, we don't have a style. We have one, but we don't know of it.
Right.
And it's because you've been kept from that culture and that heritage. We are the people of the Atlantic slave trade during the West Coast are the children of Israel. They are from the Southern Kingdom. And many scholars have written and wrote about that. Matter of fact, I was quoting one of the Zondervan Bible Dictionary, and it describes it because in church, it was a doctrine that came with telling us that we were the children of the slaves, the children of Ham. And it says, let me give you that definition. It says, Ham, the youngest son of Noah, born probably about 96 years before the flood. He became the progenitor of the dark races. So you would think that's talking about us. But it said not the Negroes, but the Ethiopians, but the Egyptians, but the Libyans, but the Canaanites. Those are the 4 sons of Ham. But they distinguish, and these are scholars who wrote this. They said, but not the Negro. The Negro are not from a Hamitic descendant. It's because we're Shemites. Is it possible? I want to read just a little quote.
But I think we only have a minute left.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But like I was telling you before we interviewed, this is a lot to take in.
Well, what I would like to say is, this is a book that, if you want to understand who you are, it's written by Rudolph Windsor. It's called From Babylon to Timbuktu. And this book has a lot of information on who you are as Afro-Caribbeans or so-called Negroes in the Americas.
Tell folks where they could go check out the documentary.
All right. Again, you can look at the document. You can YouTube the real Zion, the real Mount Jerusalem. There's another one called the Cry from Mount Ephraim. And then again, you can look me up, Kenyon, Kenyon, Wilkerson, Wilkerson. You put that in the search bar on YouTube, you'll come up with all my information. Also, you can hit me up and contact me at returntozion@yahoo.com. That's all one word. returntozion@yahoo.com.
All right. Well, we thank these guys for joining us, Kenyon bin Yisrael and Shimo bin. Boom, I got it. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. We're going to take a little break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You're watching Day Prime.
Shalom.